So we found this video from the Department of Meteorology in the UK, and there you can see actually the effects that heat waves have, because we do see more and more droughts. And if there is floods coming, and I think for most of you the interlinkage is quite clear, on the left-hand side where we do have really moisture grass, there the water is already infiltrated, whereas on the right hand side is still standing. Yeah, and this is the combination between where water percolates fast, yeah, and in the middle it's now coming, yeah, infiltrating slowly, and the impacts that it has. This is also another picture that we really like, where you can see on the left hand side that how actually vegetation cover is impacting soil fertility. This one is a picture from afar in the lowlands of Ethiopia from an expedition, a geographical expedition in the 70s, and where you can see really high grass. And when we talk our target group, to the pastoralists, they always tell us, yeah, you know, when we were young, or our parents, they could barely find their camels because the grass was so high. And until we found this picture, it was really hard for us to believe that this was actually true until we found this picture. Because on the right hand side, this is how it looks, the Teru Plains, how they look today. It's basically the same location where we went. You can still see some small bushes and leftovers of grass, but there is the environment is changing. And I think this is something um, that happens, like when you see your children growing up. Yeah, I also have a small son, and basically it's like, yeah, wait, when did that happen, that you grow up? But if you see it every day, you don't notice that. And I have another example for you, and since we have little time, I'm trying to do it a little faster than we usually do. Here, this is in the capital city of the Somali region in Ethiopia, where you can see how the gully, which is a really big gully, it's called Sheikh Ali Gure, is or was growing over the last years. Here you can see when the pictures from the satellite were taken. And you can see how it's growing, and it's also actually approaching the city Jijjiga with really fast speed. And I mean, at the same time, we do have population growth towards each other. So, what to do about that? So, the solution is called, in our context, dry valley rehabilitation and productive use. And what does that actually mean? So, um, basically, the engine of it is a so-called water spreading weir. So when you have the escarpment and the water flowing down, that you would block the water to a certain extent with a small wall. Not being a dam, but really small walls. Our engineers don't like these expressions, but these are walls which are from cement and stone, like 150, 200 meters long, so that you actually spread the water, and still the overflow water would run over it. And so that you give the sediment, which is carried with it, time to settle and the groundwater to recharge. And then you do this in a cascade of 8 to 10 water spreading weirs. And with that, you can silt up the area again, yeah, and fill the gullies and create fertile land. And we call them islands of fertility. So here's another picture. And how does that work? Here's one before and after picture. There's like 3 years in between. And then you can lift it up until you have leveled the whole area up. And here you can see a water spreading weir in action. So basically, you would stabilize the whole area with, with trees and grasses. We like elephant grass a lot, also as a fodder for livestock. And then the overflow water would run into the next water spreading weir. So here's another before and after for you, where you can see some water standing. Yeah, exactly. This picture was taken last year after 6 years in total, and yeah, it's really impressive. It's working. So the technology is actually quite sexy and quite nice because you can go there, you can touch it, and yeah, but there is much more needed to it. Yeah. So how do you select the area? Where do you want to go? Who's actually using this area? Who's maintaining it? And basically, who's actually benefiting from it? So this is why we came up with a 7-step approach that you can see here in the next slide. And yeah, we call them 7 steps to heaven. We know that the Muslims do it in 5 steps. I don't know about other religions. I'm happy to learn about that. So yeah, the 7 steps that we have here in our concept of the DVRPU concept is, first, we start with satellite identification, because you need certain criteria to have an area that is suitable for our approach. So you need a specific slope. Yeah, if it's too deep or too shallow, then it doesn't work. You cannot have like a river which is permanent. That would also not work. Yeah, but if we find through GPS that the area is actually suitable, we go on and go do some ground truthing before the communities are actually engaged. And this is really key, because if the community doesn't commit, then full stop. Yeah, we would not proceed. If they say, yeah, that sounds interesting, they have seen other sites where, yeah, an area has been rehabilitated already, they start establishing a cooperative, which is in Ethiopia a legalized entity. So they would be the driving power behind that. And then we would go into the technical and budgetary planning before actually starting construction. So you can see actually when you start things happening on the ground, that would only be step 6 out of 7. Step 7 being the productive use of the area. And yeah, it's pretty complex. So in 10 minutes is really difficult. So there's actually more than just this water spreading weir. So depending on where you are in a dry valley, we would also use dry stone measures, which are loose stone bunds. We have water spreading weirs, but we also work with check dams, gabion check dams, and other things. And then the biological interventions. So here are some pictures of how it looks like in practice with the communities. And yeah, I think I'll skip that. So benefits are quite numerous, and I think this is what might be interesting for you. We create new and fertile land that can be used for cash crops and a lot of diversification, building resilience in these areas which are really shaken from climate change. And yeah, because the fertile soil comes basically for free down from the highlands, we have basically no risk of salinization or acidification. And since groundwater is recharging, we can use shallow wells later on when the groundwater has increased, right? To bridge times which are more challenging, where we have less water coming down from the highlands. So here I do have some before and after pictures. Again, this was taken 2 years apart with a drone. And here's another before and after. And yeah, what we want to do is, I mean, usually foreigners like the picture on the left, but actually is really devastating, because this when a pastoralist has that is not dying. Yeah, and we want to come back to a abundance where people can sustain themselves and not depend on food aid. Just really quickly, one dry valley can create food security for 6,000 people. And if we would use the fund flows which go into the lowlands of Ethiopia, 20% of it for 10 years, we could make 6 million people food secure and bring 220,000 hectares back into production. This is why we do have a lot of attention, and we do have a lot of backing of the Ethiopian government, but also beyond. Um, this is a map here from the Horn of Africa, but there's also potential beyond that to apply the DVRPU approach. And the upscaling is already happening. So we have a massive number of water spreading weirs already being constructed in Ethiopia. And as I said, we are in contact already across borders, but also with Western Africa, where a similar situation is and where they do have similar approaches already to exchange. So we want to come back into a situation of plenty, where you can actually grow bananas in the lowlands. And it's actually happening already. This is one of our sites where people are harvesting already. So yeah, that was my short presentation, as short as I could keep it. And I hope it was interesting for you. We are happy to share more information if you like.
Thank you, Miriam, for this really great and impressive presentation. Well, and yeah, it was really, really nice. So let's get to our next speaker, which would be Bella. If you would like to start.
Great. Thanks so much, Miriam. That was really interesting. I'll start sharing. Just a heads up, I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and we are experiencing a power outage today. So I'm sitting at the only place with a generator that's still quiet, which is a construction site of one of our big tall buildings. So if anyone comes past me, hopefully not in the next 10 minutes, that's why. Let me get to presentation mode here. So today I will be presenting the work that you can see my presenter view. Let's see. The work that I've been doing for the past 2 years with the circular bionutrient economy, and my fellow network leader, Eric Abala, is also on this call today. And so if you have any questions, also reach out to him as well during this presentation. So the Circular Bionutrient Economy Network is a group of individuals that have been working towards improvement and adaptation and overall success of a circular bionutrient economy. And that is generally nutrient recovery of human waste streams, whether that's from human excreta, from compost manures, agricultural wastes. We try to use different nutrient recovery techniques and bring them together in the most valuable way for local scenarios. And so this can include manures and compost. This can include biochar production, which brings very high carbon concentrations back into the soil, increasing soil organic matter, water retention, as well as using urine and feces through different activities. Some of it's biochar, some of it's intense composting, some of it's black soldier fly production, which is a fly that essentially digests materials and then can create animal feed, as well as a frass, which can be used similar to compost as a fertilizer. And we found that overlapping these techniques is actually the most beneficial to use wastes for the back-end success or back-end needs of a circular bionutrient economy, as well as producing an agricultural fertilizer or soil amendment, which is the front-end needs. And we found that unlike most economies, we function not in an entrepreneurial way that's either using a demand and filling it with supply, or using a supply and trying to make demand out of it, but instead we're trying to merge both. And in trying to merge both, there's constantly, I guess, sacrifice or meeting halfway between the two. You can't have the best of both, and so you have to find the scenario that it works best, and that's usually very regionally dependent, also very seasonally dependent and crop dependent. And so We focus on filling the need for whole systems approaches because we have to marry essentially the supply of waste materials and managing that with the demand of agricultural fertilizer, soil organic amendments, pesticides, that we then have to work more as a whole, more in one room, in a way that we don't necessarily see in other economies. And so we want to bring the people together that collect waste, but also the people together that convert the waste, as you can see here. So we have collection, we have conversion, we have production and distribution of a fertilizer, and then we have back into the plants and back towards the people where it's excreted in one way or another. This is the more crude depiction of it, and back again here. And so in seeing where each of us fit in as a whole group, we find that there's a lot of mutually beneficial connections that go across sectors, and that because it's such a new and constantly shifting and very logistically oriented business, that social infrastructure is actually really important. And getting to know each other, being comfortable with each other, and actually enjoying each other's company is what drives our interaction, and our knowledge sharing and our entrepreneurial growth individually, but also as a whole value chain or circular bionutrient economy. And so we really try to not just function individually or even as immediate objectives, but create all of the quieter connections that's key for social infrastructure. And so this has led us to individuals from over 14 different countries. There's over 100 of us, and we represent 40+ organizations, and we're still growing. This has only been the past 2 years. And we define ourselves as a community of nutrient recovery practitioners, generally based in East Africa, but we have a lot of colleagues in Sub-Saharan Africa and Europe, and academics from the US as well. And we mostly function through working groups, workshops, study tours, and conferences. And so we try to have a lot of fun with it, as you can see in this picture. It's quite informal. It's a lot of knowledge sharing. Our conferences don't end up being presentations necessarily, but more like skits, as you can see in this picture here, to explain complicated matters like carbon credit, market and utilization, and as well as economy drives such as expanding the biochar market in East Africa, which right now is not too existent, mostly NGO driven, or having study tours looking at black soldier fly production, or small-scale biochar production for carbon credits, as well as having workshops and virtual working group meetings. And we function in this as best fit, I guess is the best way to put it. And we're constantly trying to meet current needs and never be functioning in a vision that's of the past, and really reformulating ourselves, reformulating our working groups, our workshop goals, our events that we have slated for 6 months to a year based on what we see those needs to be, from consistent and continual conversation across our network. And this has been really exciting. It's been really fun. And we find that it's really crucial to setting up a very nuanced, new and logistically oriented economy that theoretically would be able to bring wastes out of the environment, and then back into the soil. And so I'm conscious of time here, and we'll just wrap up with how you can engage. So we have web updates on our listserv online. At our website here, we do a lot of co-grants. They don't always go through, but it's really a good process to write them with different individuals, different organizations, and see, what are new possible avenues for the network. And we also have network events. So we have actually a study tour coming up with some GIZ folks from Ethiopia. Actually, they're coming in October this upcoming month to do a global artisanal carbon credit CSync tour in central Kenya. And then we also have continual working groups. So there's a lot of policy advisory. Last week, this week, our team just met with 2 county governors talking about CBEN and biochar and carbon credits. And we also have nutrient recovery resource mapping that a team from Ethiopia is also doing. And more to come. It's constantly shifting and evolving. But we're really excited to the energy that we have, really excited for new collaborators, and yeah, excited to hear the rest of the presentations.
Great, thank you, Emma. Thank you for the nice presentation. Our next speaker is Anand. Do I pronounce that correctly? Not sure.
Yes, Samuel. My name is Anand. I'm just presenting my screen. Namaskaram. My name is Anand, and I am from Tamil Nadu, a southern state in India. And I have been a full-time volunteer of Isha Foundation, which has been inculcating yoga practices across the globe, and have taken a major initiative in the agriculture and tree planting sector. So I am leading the operations for the Save Soil program on the ground. And the vision of the program is to bring a minimum of 3 to 6% soil organic matter, depending upon the region and the climatic conditions and so on, of course. And by bringing land under shade from vegetation and enriching the soil through plant litter and animal waste. So that is the vision of the Save Soil movement. The strategy is we have taken up a very large river which runs for 800 kilometers, and to transition the Kaveri River Basin's farmers into tree-based agriculture. So that is one of our main strategies. The second strategy is to transition farmers into natural farming. For people outside India, natural farming is a form of regenerative agriculture. This is being done to all the major crops that are cultivated in the state. And the objective is to enable the plantation of 2.4 billion trees through tree-based agriculture, with a target group of 5.2 million farmers who are actually dwelling in the river basin. And in the same region, we are also making natural farming a mainstream phenomena in the state, because today regenerative agriculture or natural farming is a fringe phenomena. It is not in the mainstream. The mainstream agriculture is still into modernized system of using heavy synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, and farm machinery. So our aim is to work with the government and with the policymakers to bring a very large, momentous change from the conventional system of agriculture to natural farming, or we can call it the regenerative agriculture. So the core strategy here is to ease transition to tree-based agriculture and regenerative farming. It's happening through online and in-person trainings to farmers in their own localities. Developing model farm and doing crop trials and demonstrations, which will be the proof of concept for other farmers to trust and transition. Free on-farm consultations through our expert field team, who will go to the farmer, see their land conditions, soil conditions, and give them the right advisory to choose the right species of trees and crops which can go together. And providing organic subsidized tree saplings, which is a very big gap in the local communities. If the saplings are available, they're too expensive for farmers to take it up on large scale. So we are subsidizing by raising funds and giving subsidized saplings to the farmers. Creating model farmer support to ensure that a farmer is being handholded by another farmer. We have grouped farmers into support groups in the form of WhatsApp groups as well as physical groups, where a model farmer who's used to regenerative agriculture and tree-based farming will guide the new farmers who are being trained by our team, so that it builds a better level of trust and support. Then the final strategy is through social media and farmer WhatsApp groups. Since the pandemic, a lot of the farmers have taken up into smartphones, and their participation in social media has tremendously increased, multifold in the last 4 to 5 years. And we are capitalizing through giving out a lot of educational content and inspiring success stories to farmers so that they can also join this movement. So empowering farmers as change makers is also a very key core strategy, because today the biggest threat to agriculture in India is that the next generation, the children of farmers, are not getting up or not taking up agriculture. This is the biggest threat. A kind of a detailed survey done by an institution shows that less than 2% of the farmers want their children to enter agriculture. They want their children to get educated and go somewhere and get a salaried job rather than continue farming in the country. So because of this, the threat to food security and the threat to the population which has been protecting the soil for millennia is actually very alarming. And to ensure that farmers come back to farming, one is that we have to make farmers as the model people who have been financially successful and also bring pride in agriculture. So to do all these aspects, we have a number of workshops and training programs that we have been doing for the past 2.5 decades. So when we look at the first strategy, which is tree-based agriculture, we see that reviving Kaveri, which has been the lifeline support for these farmers in terms of irrigation, is drying out. More than 40% depletion has happened in the last 70 years. And 87% of the green cover in its catchment areas have been lost due to modernized farming and deforestation. So to bring back, the plan is to plant 2.4 billion trees in farmlands with 4.2 million farmers. And this will be covering an area of 83,000 square kilometers. And we have started this program in 1998, and we have been progressing steadily. This will have an impact of reversing land degradation, multiply farmers' income by 300 to 800%, and bringing 33% green cover in the entire geography, which is as per the national aspiration and as per the United Nations recommendations. So the project will be able to sequester 200 to 300 million tons of CO2, which is again adding to 6% of the Paris Agreement that India as a nation which has committed to. So the outcomes since 1998 is we have enabled the plantation of 112 million trees involving 218,000 farmers covering 145,000 hectares of land. And this has not been done separate alone with the global support of 42 million trees donated by individuals from 162 countries. People have participated in supporting in these tree planting initiatives through their small and big donations. And apart from that, 75 major corporate social responsibility partners from the Indian community have come together to support the program. Apart from this, the government of Karnataka, another neighboring state where the Kaveri River originates, they have supported by supplying 32 million trees to the farmers mobilized by the Kaveri Calling program. So the second part of the strategy, which is to transition to natural farming, the salient features most of you are already aware of. I'll just quickly run through them. It's self-reliance on farm inputs, not allowing the farmer to be market dependent for farm inputs, use of native seeds and native livestock, adopting to multi-tier and multi-cropping mechanism to insulate themselves from market risks as well as climate risks, use of natural pest control measures without using any harmful chemical pesticides or insecticides, bringing water use efficiency through farm design and bringing watershed concepts into farm design as well as through micro irrigation system of irrigation, use of low cost farm equipments for cultivation, harvest and value addition, which is becoming the core driver for most of the farm machinery are designed and used for large scale activity. Today with the high farmers need equipments which can be used by them as husband and wife to cultivate and harvest their land. So we have different categories in our training programs. One is crop-based training programs, all the major crops that we grow, which has a package of practices and a standard operator for the major crops. So we have different types of training categories. I just explained all of them. And we have mega training programs where 3,000 to 4,000 farmers come together for a mega training workshop. And we'll have model farmers who will bring their stalls to ensure that they're able to exhibit their success in front of these farmers. Just a few photographs of the on-field training programs. These programs are conducted on the model farmers' cropland, so that after the theoretical sessions, they can actually go and see the actual work on the ground by the farmers. These are bio-input preparation programs where farmers are practically taught into how to produce various bio-inputs using local materials. And it is a practical demonstration program rather than a theoretical program, so they know the standard operating procedures by hand. These are insect training programs where, without using any invasive or harmful chemicals, how to control pests using natural methods by bringing predatory insects into the farm, which will control the pest through natural means. These are our regular review meetings where we teach them the importance of soil texture, the importance of soil biology and soil profiling, so that farmers know how to handle soil in their own farms. These are ethno-medicinal practices in animal care where, without using chemical medicines or allopathic medicines, through the traditional ethno-medicinal practices, we are able to handle diseases and other lactating issues with cattle. These are experts who have 30 to 40 years of experience in this area. This is a kind of a training program where we take them to multi-tier, multi-cropping model where the entire agriculture land can become a forest, a food forest where at least 7 different layers of cropping can be done in the same place, which has proven climate proofing in terms of flood and drought mitigation, as well as multi-cropping will ensure multiple sources of farm income for the farmers. These are for urban dwellers who are interested in growing their own food. We do terrace gardening workshops for women and children who want to produce their own food in their own terraces, who don't have or who don't own land. So with efficiency in space usage in their own terrace, they're able to grow their own vegetables and cereals in their houses. These are examples of mega training programs where we bring in the farmer experts who have done this, and they share their experiences and learning to thousands of farmers. The local political and bureaucratic leadership come and inaugurate this program to give a kind of assuring support to the movement that is happening on the ground. So in Safe Soil, until 2013, we were developing our models in terms of fine-tuning what we want to take across the state and the country. Since 2013, by 2024, we would have onboarded 275,000 farmers into these initiatives. And not just onboarding them, we have a hand-holding support methodology where we have a helpline system giving them follow-up calls on a continuous basis, visiting farms for documentation and guidance through trained farmers, providing information on an upcoming training programs that are going to happen, and troubleshooting through farmer helplines, which will be raised as ticketing issues, and the troubleshooting will be addressed within 24 to 48 hours. This brings the trust that if we onboard a farmer, they're continuously hand-holded for the next 2 to 3 years until they complete transitioning. Finally, educating farmers by posting regular content on social media. We have a full-fledged production crew which produces quality education content in local language so that farmers can participate in this online education as well. These are model farmers growing different crops who have succeeded financially, as well as preserving the soil and increasing the soil organic carbon and various other macro and micronutrition. So our social media has been performing very well in the last 5 years. More than 260 WhatsApp groups linking 75,000 farmers in our groups, where we have everyday content going out to them. More than 1,075 awareness programs have been created with technical and farmer success videos uploaded in our YouTube. 30 million views on YouTube and 650,000 social media farmer followers have been onboarded. The plan for this year is that we are enabling the plantation of 13.5 million trees in the Kaveri region and educating 180,000 new farmers and onboarding 30,000 farmers into tree-based agriculture by the end of the year, and onboarding 8,000 farmers into natural farming methodology with needed hand-holding support. We will be identifying 1,000 existing model or lead farmers who will be an instrument of spreading the movement further. Thank you for this opportunity to share our story. I conclude my presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you for this great presentation. Now, Shekhar, I think it is your turn. If you'd like to share your screen.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I would like to be sharing my soil story by combining the happy soil with happy farmer. And happiness of the farmer is something very important, which we found out.
Sorry,
Can you-
Shekhar, that I interrupt you. Anand, you have to end your presentation. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Shekhar. Now we can see your presentation.
Yes, okay, all right. So yeah, so I was trying to say that our soil story is related with the happiness of the farmer. The soil becomes happy, the farmer becomes happy. And a happy farmer is the great contribution to the society, to the farming profession. And one of the problem that farmer is getting old worldwide. Only old people remain in the farming, and able youth is not attracted to farming is one of the major problems. But with our soil story, it's a completely reversed flow. The able youth is attracted back to farming. So this is what I'm going to tell you today. But in the beginning, I would like to share one very happy moment which we had today. You all must be knowing that rice is considered threat to the world because of two things. One, because it emits a lot of greenhouse gases, methane, 22 times harmful than CO2. And the second, rice gulps a lot of water. To produce 1 kilo of rice, it consumes 3,000 liters of water from nature. Both the problems, today we came to know the most critical problem of rice, that is, it generates methane. That's because it's anaerobic condition. It's cultivated in puddle condition where the water is held in the field. Anaerobic condition. But our method, which has changed this particular farm, you can see, this is my farm. This is how it looks 45 years ago, and this is how it looks today. So this is a conversion. This is what has happened with my farm, which is about 55 acres. So the news that I wanted to share today, we had a visitor scientist today from nearby very important institute called Bhabha Atomic Research Institute. Their scientists have come with their equipment to check the methane gas. So they checked the methane gas in a traditional field, which was 15,000 parts per million. Whereas our field, that is SRT, Saguna Regenerative Technique, there the methane was found 0.01. It is fantastic. We have been only imagining that this must be happening for almost 12 years. But today it was checked with the machine. So it's a very happy moment for us. So with this news, I would like to begin. And this is the picture of my farm. A completely degraded land can be converted into completely productive place, and a place which is generating not only food, not only happiness, but generating a lot of knowledge to be shared with many other farmers. The technique which I will be talking about is Saguna Regenerative Technique. This is one of the most important impact is that as soon as the farmers accept this technique, very soon the farmer becomes happy and farmer becomes confident. And this is a great feeling. Farmer becoming happy is one of the general consensus, which will be the main theme of my speech. But the base is healthy soil. And you can see this, there are 5 samples in the top left. This is the traditional farmer who is my next door farmer. He's still, it's like those people, they, who are still looking for a push button phone in the market rather than going for a mobile phone. It's only because the push button phone is not available. This is why they are buying the mobile phone. Similarly, the technique is available next door with us, but he is not ready to accept it. So he is still, his soil, you can take a look in the left topmost corner, it is still a very dry, degraded soil. Whereas 3 years SRT, 6 years SRT, 8 years and 10 years, the changes are visible by the eyes. And if the soil becomes healthy, the farmer becomes healthy, happy, and everything starts falling in place. And the most important, the youth is attracted to farming. This is already one of the important impact. Another impact, we all talk about biodiversity. When I came back on my farm in 1976, where that degraded portion you saw, the farm was completely degraded. 1976, we could hardly see 10 or 15 different birds, which included sparrows and crows. But today, this is the biodiversity. This is checked by 3 zoologists over a period of 365 days, where they found out 57 different species of spiders, 70 species of butterflies, 120 species of birds, and lots of amphibians and reptiles. Every specimen is recorded with photograph, with all the details, with 2 pages information. This has been collected. This is only the visible biodiversity. The microscopic biodiversity, which makes the healthy soil, that's also another chapter, but we have not been able to check it yet. But the most important for a healthy soil is this engineer. We all call it earthworm. Earthworms are the best engineers of our soil. Everybody wanted the earthworms to come in paddy field. But this was shown by SRT farmer. As soon as they accepted SRT, within 1 or 2 crop cycle, the first or second crop cycle, they were dancing with happiness that we got earthworms. Now, SRT was initially started for rice, but now it is accepted by all over the state of Maharashtra by more than 7,000 farmers. Since 2013, this development is there. So more than 7,000 farmers and more than 10 or 15 different crops that includes cotton, pulses, soybean, maize, groundnut, onion, and so on. But every farmer is saying, we got earthworms naturally. So getting earthworms is one of the impact of getting earthworms naturally without any efforts. But by this regenerative method of farming, where our basic principle is no tillage at all, leaving the roots of the previous crop and the roots of the weeds in situ to die and decay, rotation of crops, and instead of plowing and tillage operations, we use herbicides that are available, that are certified by institutions, various institutions, and those are the proper dose, the proper timing, and proper method. So this is the way our technique works, but these are the impacts. So the next impact is, so I wanted to tell you that earthworms are not only in one type of soil, but all different types of soils. You can see earthworms and all different crops. This is possible. And as I told you, a worried farmer on the left-hand side suddenly becomes happy, whether it's a youth, elderly woman, or a young girl from school, just finished college and came into agriculture. All of them become happy. And happiness is the most important spice for successful agriculture and successful rural life. So this happiness comes to the farmer as soon as they accept SRT. So one of the major problem that we noticed and we could manage it is loss of soil, the beautiful soil, the soil erosion. This soil erosion, we all know now, by now we all know that it is because of tillage. The tillage is our biggest enemy. I'm sure we have heard that plowing is the biggest enemy of the farming profession, and the environment. So we need to stop plowing and stop tillage. This is what happens. Each time we try to cultivate rice, the blood from our motherly land goes out. And we checked that. We checked the blood. We took that water sample. Initially, we took only one, but then we took 101 samples from almost 2 districts of Maharashtra, going there, collecting the sample, checked it with turbidity test and settling test. This is what we found out. The two-wheel tractor made it, the loss was 14%. If it's a four-wheel tractor, we found out that the loss was 15%. If it was a traditional plow with bullocks and the wooden plow, the loss was only 3%. But if it is SRT, 0% loss. This is something great. Every farmer knows this problem, but they did not have an option. They did not have a choice. But now they have a choice of SRT, and they could stop their soil loss, soil erosion because of tillage operation. Otherwise, this is what we always see, the rivers full of blood that is going out of our agricultural land. We can now see that it is possible, there is a possibility that it can be stopped. But we all know that when the water, the soil gets washed away in from the fields, gets into the rivers, and when those rivers are embanked with the big reservoirs, you can see that these rivers, this silt is dumped into the water reservoirs. So it creates the problem at the field level, at the agricultural farms, and it creates another big problem at the water reservoir level. So both these problems can be completely stopped by SRT method. So our objective should be healthy soil, and it is well within our reach, very easy. Here, what we are seeing is on the left-hand side, in India, at least, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but in India, most of the farmers believe that if you plow your land and keep it solarized in the solar radiation, in the sunlight, with very high heat, the soil becomes healthy. This is a common belief, but which is a myth. Whereas if you stop plowing, if it is no-till agriculture, you can see the change. Actually, our land was also same as this, and the soil has already become so healthy. So it is the myth versus fact. The myth is it's the farmer who is using fertilizers and chemicals. That's why the soil degradation. But the fact is the plowing should be stopped. The tillage operation should be stopped. So it is degenerative is plowing, and regenerative is no plowing, no till is regenerative. This method becomes climate resilient. You can see the two fields side by side because of flood and excess rain. The traditional field is ruined, whereas SRT field is exactly opposite. This is another area where it's a cotton field. Again, on the left-hand side is SRT and right-hand side is traditional. Same thing, maize, all different crops are resilient with the SRT method. And this is what a farmer, if the farmer sees this, that the crop is resilient, it's very nice, the farmer becomes happy. We carried out our research, and in our research work, we compared SRT with traditional, and these are different crops: rice, ragi, wheat, cowpea, and so on. So we can, consider, we found out the difference before the cost of production and the yield, increased yield. And you can see on most of the cases, the cost of production has gone down. The pink column in the right side, 29%, 40%, the cost of production is reduced while yield has increased. These are our findings, and our most important the concluding thing is our Panchamrit, five good things that are happening. Minimum 5. Actually, it's 7 different things that are happening that are good, but 5 good things is a decent work and economic growth of the 17 SDGs. This is goal number 8. The farmer becomes happy. The climate action, goal number 13. We are able to fix. We have done some analytical work and we have found out between 0.4 to 0.5% or carbon sequestration takes place. So we are completely, this is how we can become perfect friends of 4 per thousand, that we are able to fix this 0.4% increase, 0.4% of organic carbon, add into the soil. Healthy soil comes from, creates good health and well-being. That is goal number 3. Because of healthy food, healthy soil, the food is healthy and the health of the farmer is healthy. Life on land, which is goal number 15, and then clean water and sanitation. So all these goals are addressed, but happiness of the farmer's happiness index also we have done, and we found out on 0 to 10 scale, we got 8.58 points on 0 to 10 scale. Farmer is becoming happy and the whole community becomes happy. And this is what our achievement is. And we are also very happy because of that. And we are very happy to be friends of 4 per thousand because we are completely aligning with your objective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you for your great presentation. Now I think it's Rajiv's and Bhawna's turn. You'd like to share your presentation?
So Bhavna will start and then I'll take over. Bhavna, over to you.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Rajiv. Would you like to put it in presentation mode? Great. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Bhavna Solanki. I'm based in Mumbai. And it is an honor for me and Beetle Region Solutions to be a part of this community created by 4 per thousand. As the title says, we are going to speak about regenerative agricultural practices in smallholder cotton farming in India. But before we jump into that, I would like to give a brief introduction about Beetle, post which I will hand it over to Rajiv ji. So, so as the slide says, our mission is that we strive to be at the forefront of regenerative agriculture and circular textile innovation, offering environmentally conscious alternatives that minimize the ecological footprint of the fashion and textile industries. So what we are trying to do is we are a startup. We are in our first year, and but we are a bunch of professionals who have come together with a decade and a half year experience in sustainable agriculture, called organic farming, sustainable supply chains, and so on. So we have come together to achieve this mission, wherein our key focus areas involve regenerative and recycled fiber projects. So as Shekharji was mentioning in the previous presentation, a lot is very much relevant to our work as well, what we are doing as Beetle. So while doing regenerative projects, we are trying to sequester carbon, of course. So carbon management and sequestration is our second focus area. We are working with cotton farmers largely, so we are offering traceability in this entire supply chain. To the brands, we are offering carbon offsetting and carbon insetting opportunities. We are also looking at the social compliance, that is a decent work aspects in the agriculture, amongst the farmers and in the supply chain. We are aiming to become a sourcing hub for sustainable fibers and textile materials. And we also are initiating a industry-focused climate action network. So yes, this is largely what Beetle is about. And so when I say that textile brands, so we work with cotton textile brands and facilitate linking and establishing chain of custody from farm to brands. So to get a sustainable supply chain for farmers, which offers a traceable end-to-end market. So moving on to the next slide, I will just give you an overview of where are we located. So it is in largely in two states of India, that is Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So in Madhya Pradesh, in the Khargone district, we have around 20,000 farmers, cotton farmers that we are working with, and all of these are smallholder farmers, helping them to transition to regenerative agriculture from conventional to regenerative. And in Maharashtra, we are working in 4 districts, that is Jalgaon, Aurangabad, Nagpur, and Nanded. So wherein we are working with 50,000 cotton farmers. So this is large, that is our main focus area. And apart from that, we have also started a project in Andhra Pradesh with rice farmers on the technique of alternate wetting and drying. So which is with 5,000 farmers. So this is how beetle is spread across in India. And so I'll quickly, if we move on to the next slide, I'll quickly share a key takeaway from the International Cotton Advisory Committee. Their recent report of 2024, which says that regenerative agriculture is becoming the cornerstone in the evaluation of the expectations of the textile and apparel industry, signaling a significant shift in their approach to sustainability and ecological responsibility. So what we are trying to do here is we are, as India largely has smallholder farmers, we're trying to connect these smallholder farmers through a sustainable supply chain. And while doing that, we wish to regenerate the soil, and that's what is our main theme. And with this, I would request Rajiv ji to come over and take you through the soil story of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Samuel 4000, for giving us this opportunity to present the work we are doing. As Bhavna mentioned, we are a very young organization, but all of us have a lot of experience in working with farmers, and we are particularly working with a very major commercial crop, which is cotton. So I'm very happy to walk you through what we are trying to do. This is just a bit of an overview about what regenerative agriculture is all about, which I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on, but I think what's really important is the proposed outcome of what we are intending to do, and some of it has already been covered by some of the aspects have already been covered by Shekhar in some of the things that he said. I'll also try to also discuss a little bit about some of the challenges on some of the areas. So I'm just moving to the next slide. I think it's really important to understand that principles and outcomes are conveying the direction. And ultimately, it's the practices that farmers that are adopting, which is central to our story. And it's really important that practices need to be contextualized to the region, keeping in mind farmer resources and so many things. It's really not a one-size-fits-all solution that makes things quite challenging sometimes. I mean, the whole tillage is something that we really want to crack, but there are many challenges there, which I think you might be able to discuss. This is not a very happy slide. It actually shows the soil organic carbon status of the areas that we are working, and it's primarily below 0.50. And this is, I mean, on the left-hand side is the state of Madhya Pradesh. On the right-hand side is the state of Maharashtra. And this is a discourse that we are really trying to bring to farmers, that look, if you don't invest in soil health, nothing is going to happen. And a lot of farmers don't even know that soil organic carbon is such an integral part of the soil health. And I'm not putting any blame on farmers. That's how the situation is. So how we make farmers realize the importance of soil organic carbon, what they can do to enhance it, increase it, I often tell farmers that soil organic carbon is not something you can go to a shop and buy in bags. It's something you have to invest in terms of work and stuff like that. Now, this is a slide I thought it may be relevant, that because of the poor drop in soil organic carbon, you see how the fertilizer response in India has dropped. I mean, the highlight is 1960, 1 kilo of NPK nutrients yielded 12.1 kilos of cereal grain. Now it's down to 5. In 2010, it's probably even down lower. I mean, this study's data was only up to 2010. So this is the reality that we are living in. This is the reality of farmers that we work with. And under these really difficult conditions, organization like ours who strive to bring, and many others who strive to bring a change, are facing, and this is what we have to crack finally. And I mean, these are some of the innovative practices that we are talking about. You know, I'm not going to read everything. Cover crops is an extremely difficult issue, especially in rain-fed areas. We work in semi-arid areas where post March, April, there's hardly any moisture in the soil. And yes, Shekhar was right that farmers do have this myth about, you know, solarizing the soil, leaving it barren, etc. So there are a couple of myths there that we need to crack. On the right-hand side, you can see these are examples of intercropping. This is a cotton field. Both of them are cotton field. One is intercrop with groundnut. The other is intercrop with also with groundnut, but perhaps at a different cropping stage. Now, the issue with cotton, I just wanted to say is, as you can see on the slide below, where the farmer is actually using a secondary tillage, is that cotton is a widely spaced crop. And the first 2 months, it's putting all its energies in the root development. And these 2 months, the soil is really exposed to wind, to soil erosion, and also to weeds. So weeding is another very, very critical issue in terms of bringing down tillage. And I mean, Shekhar did mention the use of herbicides. Now, for instance, if we really have to go to a complete zero till, we may have to use glyphosate. And I don't know whether that's a good trade-off between using glyphosate and you know, using tillage. So right now, what we are focusing on is bringing down secondary tillage, because we are currently working on an inventory. What practices are being used? Where can we intervene? Because tillage is actually a low-hanging fruit. It's resource and money for the farmers. It's easy to implement, provided we have the right process and the right science behind it. And right now, the science is not so well evolved. We need a lot of small trials here and there. It's much, so this is something we need to really work and understand. And let me also say that a lot of farmers do have farmyard manure. So that way organic matter is added to the soil. But if you ask me if farmers are composting, it's not so easy. Composting is, people are not investing in compost, but luckily in the Indian context, we do have farmyard manure, ample farmyard manure, which is of not great quality, but still it is going into the soil. And the next big thing that, I mean, there was already a mention of biochar I think in the second presentation. So luckily, cotton is endowed with this fantastic biomass called cotton stalk. And if you look at if you read the text on the right-hand side, with the 100,000 hectares of the 70,000 farmers that we work with, we can actually sequester about 480,000 tons of carbon can be sequestered and locked into the soil. But it will require behavioral change. It will require hand-holding. And you know, one of the important things is that even the previous practices that I mentioned, how are we going to incentivize farmers for process? You know, you do no-till, this is so much, you do a cover crop, you get this. And I think that's something we are, I mean, at Beetle, on the biochar front, there was a mention of CSI by the second speaker. We're really trying hard to get the insetting story going, because we want to incentivize farmers to do this. So I will try, this is virtually the last slide. I'll try and see whether I can play a video. This is a video of a farmer who's saying that we are burning crop residues. This is a village in Maharashtra, a very remote location. Let me see. It's a very short video. I'll try and see if it works.
हाँ जी, आपका नाम बताएंगे?
मेरा नाम शिवाजी सटवाजी सोलंकर।
कौन से गांव में है?
गुडोली, तालुका किन्नौर, जिला नांदेड़।
और कितने किसान हैं इस?
184।
ओके, अभी आप लोग जो कपास की साठी है या काठी है, उसका क्या करते हैं?
वो जला दे हम।
अच्छा, अब मैं बाकी जितने किसान यहाँ से हैं उनसे मैं पूछूंगा, इस साल आप फराटी का क्या करने वाले हैं? क्या करेंगे? हाथ ऊपर करके बोले। सब किसान बायोचार बनाएंगे। हम आपको सिखाएंगे कैसे बायोचार बनाना है। थैंक यू।
Yeah, so sorry. So essentially, what I asked the farmers, this is a very remote location of Maharashtra. I asked them, what are they presently doing with their cotton stalks or the crop residue? And they said they were burning it. And I said, what are you going to do this year when the harvest is over? They said, we're going to make biochar. So it's not going to happen. We have to have a dedicated, we already have a team of people. So that's going to be one of our big tickets coming as we go towards the harvest. So come January, February, we'll be really focused on farmers to make biochar. Yeah, that's the last slide. And I mean, you'll wonder what is this picture that I'm showing. These are actually, this is a picture I took in Bangladesh, which is not really good for soil health. These are cow dung skewers. People are selling this cow dung to the market. So imagine, already our soils are so starved, and every natural resource that we have is actually being pulled out, and people are doing other things. So yeah, that's it. That's the presentation from our end, and we can now have a discussion and open to conversations. I'll stop my screen sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rajiv, for your great presentation, and also to you. Thank you, Bhavana. We have one presenter left. In fact, Emma, you would like to start your presentation?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for giving me the floor. So I will start. Yeah, I think everyone can see me. Yeah, I won't start immediately with the slides, because I think it's interesting to start with first me to you sharing, of a bit of background, because we're kind of atypical organization if we compare to the different co-hosts that whose presentation we've seen. And it's quite interesting to start, without slides, because I want to give a bit of background on who we are. So our organization is called Mesh Impact, and we are a consulting organization. So we are not farmers, but our goal is to work with farmers and to work with successful farmers and to help them to spread their knowledge at a faster pace compared to the one that they were already doing. And so we are working currently in Nepal, and Nepal is for us really a great place where we have a lot of hurt and work that we've been carrying for the past 10 years now. And that's what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to explain how we as a consulting organization are having a place to play with farmers for a scale up. So that's really what it's about, and how to scale up regenerative agriculture, at the country level. That's really what it's about. So now that I've just shared this quick introduction, I'm going to share my screen and launch the presentation. I'm going to try to keep it as, because it's the end. So I think everyone is, where is my screen? Sorry, need to change this like this. And here we go. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, awesome. So Mesh Impact is an organization whose goal is to design a meaningful economy together. And what we're going to present to you is the Nepalese Regenerative Agriculture Platform. It's a platform that we're designing with the government support and with farmers. So we're really at the two ends. At one side, we're working with farmers, and on the other side, at the more policy level. And we're trying to bridge this gap. And our goal is to use our knowledge, of both those both ecosystems. On one side, the farmers, on the other side, a more international policymaking level, and to bridge them in order to create the funding mechanism. And what we're bringing, our true role in this equation is to bring financial engineering in order to help scale up regenerative agriculture further than the local level. So just to give you a bit of background on the work that we're doing. So we are both, me and Leah, working more at the planning level, and the farmer in Nepal that we're working with his name is Sudarshan. So just so that you can see a bit more about Sudarshan and his work at Sparrow Farmhouse, which is the prototype farm that he's been starting in 2013. It's a farmer who has been successful now for his regenerative agriculture practices in Nepal. And he's been recognized at COP21 for his work in transforming, the mindset in Nepal as to getting rid of pesticides and promoting regenerative agriculture. And so his farm has been a prototype which has been growing and gaining momentum over the years, in such a way that he also is now, actually this was today, he has gone through identification for IFAD to become the Nepalese indigenous representative of Nepal for the indigenous platform led by IFAD. So this is a great recognition of his work into Nepal, which I'm going to show a bit more. And also, you can see that there is also his recognition by Nepalese government, who is now considering his practices in terms of regenerative agriculture so much successful that Nepalese government is starting to fund him into scaling up his regenerative agriculture practices. And one of the most important topics where he's getting support now at the moment is for compost making. He's making 8 types of compost, local compost, and they made some, laboratory measures so to identify the quality, and they happened to find that it was so good that they really wanted to support him and increase his ability to generate more organic compost so that there is space for compost sharing. That's really the idea of how to create and put the compost at the heart of scaling up, regenerative agriculture. Since in this area, we need to understand that there is basically no compost knowledge. There is no regenerative agriculture, no organic farming, or any kind of similar techniques knowledge available. We're really talking about a space where farmers are basically left with themselves, using pesticides that the government has been heavily subsidizing for 60 years now, as everybody knows. This is unfortunately a very common practice in these areas. And that's really why there is this loss of knowledge as the way that used to be before in the past. And now Sudarshan really is identified as this, farmer who has led the way to training and sharing his knowledge in regenerative agriculture, and what he's been able to demonstrate as a successful prototype at his farm, and now getting support, increasing support, both at the national level and international level to spread his knowledge. So of course, your main question must be, what are we talking about? What is this practices? What is the farm about, right? So I'm going to show you a bit of pictures, of course. First, before we move, as you understood from my initial presentation, where we play as Mesh Impact is really about how we bring his knowledge, Sudarshan's knowledge at scale. That's really what it's about. And I'm not going to detail, just to say that Nepal, of course, has a food system today, which is quite challenging because it's relying heavily on food import, partly from India, and there's a need for sovereignty, food sovereignty, increasing food sovereignty. And that's what we're trying to work with, on how to bridge the gap so that we can provide a greater regenerative agriculture at scale. And so what we're trying to do is to create a global national platform made by Nepalese farmers for Nepalese farmers. So what it means is that we need to get the people to increase their knowledge, and Sudarshan has been teaching thousands of farmers, but the issue with just teaching farmers is that you never know, or it's difficult to know what is really happening, at the farm of somebody who has been trained. So that's really one of those critical topics, which is how do we actually support farmers beyond just teaching them? How do we bring them, all those tools and things that they don't have? Sometimes they have absolutely no tools. They're really coming from far away. And so they need to get access to these initial small investments. And that's the way that we initially, thought this program is, how can we increase the access to the small tools that will make a definitive change for those farmers who, in many cases, have nothing, especially in the indigenous local communities that we're working with. So that's this challenge that we wanted to bring, to go from teaching thousands of farmers to getting them funded so that they have access, to this minimum investments or minimum material that they need, so that they can fast track the setup of regenerative agriculture farms. And so the idea is really to create a public-private partnership with government of Nepal and different stakeholders. I'm going to go fast on this. But the idea, and that's really what I want to focus on when we talk about financial engineering, it's about how we steer, the current agriculture budget of the ministry, which is currently spending $41.5 million per year. And this is the current split for Nepalese budget for year 23-24. So you can see that there's still budget available. And so there is $41.5 million spent on pesticides. And our position into this is to say we can steer a bit of this pesticides budget and to use this budget to invest into capital expenditure for little mechanization by bringing tools to the farmers who need them, and to help them not only get access to the knowledge by teaching them, but also, by creating a global framework that will basically look alike with many of the principles that we've heard today in our call, train the trainers, and so on, this philosophy. And so to use part of this budget, to twist it, and to use it for funding farms. And so the question is, what is a farm? What needs to be funded? Where do we play here? So that's what I'm going to show you quickly. I'm going to go through these slides and reach, the prototype. So Sudarshan's farm is called Spiral Farmhouse. It's a reference on Google. So if you want to learn more about the farm and see more, you can find it on Google. It's located in Nepal. So for those who are not from this region, it's a quick way to localize it. And you can see that it's in southeast Nepal, close to Indian border. And if you look just, the global view, you can see that it's close to the mountains. So we're in a very rural area, not at all close to Kathmandu or those big cities. So it's really deep into the countryside. And that's the farm. So really the Sparrow farmhouse is here. And if you just want to have a look, at the how we try to make the farm efficient in a regenerative agriculture mindset, where we've designed, the farm so that it splits. So it's 0.8 hectare, and it's split into 40 plots. And each plot is made of 9 raised beds. And each of these raised beds is 15 meters long. And so we use standardization of one plot based on some of those methodologies that have been designed by the Market Gardener Institute in Quebec with Jean-Martin Fortier, who does not claim himself to be so much part of the regenerative agriculture movement as such, but who still shows us the way, and that's really the philosophy and the science we use behind to optimize and standardize the plots so that we can have a reference of measures, which is essential for us to be able to identify how much seeds we need per plot, how much compost we need per plot, and so on. So that's just standardization means really being able to better measure what we do in each plot. So if we look at the total of the field that we're able to grow, we have 5.4 kilometers of raised beds on those 0.8 hectare. So it's quite packed. It's quite packed, but as we will see in the slides, it's very packed with very diverse crops to promote biodiversity. So just some images, to show you, what's the spirit. I'm not going to detail regenerative agriculture because basically that's everything that we're doing, what has been shared before. One specific message concerning the tillage: we use low tillage approach, but not low tillage to modify the structure of the soil, but only for land preparation the first time. And afterwards, we use permanent raised beds. So it means that the structure of the soil in those raised beds are never modified once they are set up using the machine. So the machine is only used to set up the field the first time. And even the first time, we don't modify the structure of the soil. We use a soil which is on the side to bring in on top of the raised bed. That's the approach that we're using, and this is helping, of course, the teams and the farmers to decrease the load and everything that we've been talking about before concerning, the weight of agriculture for the use. This is one of the things that they really like. We're not modifying the structure of the soil, but nevertheless, we are using the machine only to create initially the raised beds and then to cut the cover crops. That's it. No modification. And in order to help the soil breathe at the level that is needed, what we use is those tools that you may have heard of before, which enables us to have just the slight level of modification which is required to get the soil to breathe, but without modification of the soil structure. Some of the tools that we use here are also examples of what we have. So you can see on the top left corner, this is the compost turner machine, which is currently being bought by the government of Nepal for Sudashan's farms so that he can increase his production for the district. We have the seeder on the bottom end, which is also a tool to increase the speed at which we're able to seed our crops. There is the chiller that we use also, again, without modification of soil structure. And then we have the wood chipper, which we use also for compost making. And yeah, so just also for you to see how we work, how we do greenhouses. This is made using bamboo, and that's how we actually get, to protect against heavy rainfall when we have when we need, those seed plants to protect our seed plants. And so this is a view on the raised beds that have been set up, and you can see here that we have those rows that are standardized, and also when you look at the chiller, the chiller is not modifying the structure. It's only taking the soil from the pathway and putting it on top of the raised beds. Okay, so this is also quickly, because I see that time is running by. This is also to say that we're using crop planning software to have a visual visibility on, you know, the yield that we expect to have from our standardized plots. And so if you look at the crop diversification for the season, you can see that there's intense use of different crops. So it's absolutely not a unique crop that we use for the whole plot. It's really diverse use of different crops. And of course, with crop rotation, companion crops, and all those things that are set up. And of course, which Sudarshan is the one who has the knowledge. And then, so I could talk more about the budget, but basically what we are after is to create a scale up, an infrastructure of a network of farms that work together and with whom we have global, unique crop planning for all the farms. And that's also one other important aspects of it, which is to think as one team. So everything is handled by farmers. So it's really about how those farmers come together to plan for food at scale. So I'm not going to go detail too much now, but I could ask any questions afterwards if you have any concerning the blended finance mechanism that we're setting up, the public-private partnerships. Yeah, so that's another example of the financial scheme that we use for our approach, using a mix of support from banks, from governments, and private sectors. But when we talk about banks, we're talking about banks which contribute to the project, to the funding scheme, not using the standard interest rates that we know that are killing the farmers, but based on interests that are negotiated by the government with the contribution of international agencies that are backing up, the philosophy behind the project. So it's not about having a 10% interest loan, but it's really about contributing to the funding of the global scheme. So of course, I'd be happy to talk more and detail more. Time is short, and I have already run out of time. So sorry for the time. I will stop here.
It's quite all right, Emma. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Yeah, we are unfortunately a little bit, actually really a little bit out of time, but I think we can keep on with one or two questions, I think, if that is okay with the other speakers. So now to the audience, our participants, if you have a question, you can either write it in the question and answer section, or you can also just raise your hand and we'll give you the stage. Any questions or comments? So I don't see anyone raising their hands, but there was one question for Shekhar in the question and answering section. Oh, about the technologies and practices that are used in the SRT, particularly for seeding and weed control. If you could shortly elaborate on that.
Right. Okay, so it's a no-till regenerative method of farming where we don't plow. So plowing and tillage operations are done for two things. One is to put the seed inside the ground, and second is to make a competitive edge for the weeds and the main crop. So putting the seed, for past 12 years, we used a hand tool, which is made up of iron, and its weight is about 10 to 12 kg. But now a help has come from our scientific community, that is from Hyderabad, and they have developed this team is working with us, and they have developed now a machine which is battery operated, and that machine has multiple toolbars. It's a very handy machine that can do seeding, that can do spraying, that can do the brush cutting, so that the stubbles can be brushed, cut down to make the surface of the beds smooth again. Beds can be repaired, and even the harvesting. So all these operations just by changing the toolbar. So this machine is being tested at various locations, and maybe next 6 to 9 months, this machine will be a unique machine that can be useful for almost all over the world, especially in Africa, in all the Asian countries, all the developing world, for various crops, cotton, groundnut, soybean, of course, rice. So this is one of the major requirement of the world, that how to dibble the seed at precise distance between row to row and plant to plant. And this problem is solved by this company from Hyderabad with our help, and they call it SRT Zebu. Zebu is the first domesticated animal, and this is what they have named. So this is the seed sowing, and we used a set of weedicides, pre-emergence weedicides and post-emergence weedicides. The weedicides that are available throughout the world, the developed world, for example, like in America, India, Australia, Japan, and so on. So those weedicides, earlier one weedicide was referred as glyphosate. Glyphosate is controversial, of course, but I consider that as the best molecule that a human being has ever found out. It is one of the, Jolie, we will talk separately on that. So I see, I read your face.
It's a WHO class 2A probable carcinogenic. And right now,
we will talk about it later.
I'm sure it has great wonders, but there's a lot and for a country like India, right now, glyphosate is only allowed for specific crops. I know farmers are using it in other crops, but it's a probable carcinogenic as per WHO classification. And I mean, the company who's taken over from Monsanto has paid huge fines. I mean, there's a case of Dwayne Johnson, which you can just Google up and see the kind of fines that they have paid. So, the thing is that we are very cautious that by no-till, we should not go to excessive use of herbicides. I mean, some pre-emergent, some post-emergent is fine. But, there's a bit of an issue there which one needs to tread very carefully. I mean, we have a brand who's clearly said that we are not going to accept your regenerative cotton. It's a very popular European brand. If you're going to use no-till with glyphosate, and they've asked us in their questionnaire. So it's an area that that one must tread with caution.
Okay. Yeah, we will talk later about it.
Yeah,
but basically, our technique uses a set of weedicides, selective weedicides, which are certified by various organizations. And the most important, the soil has become happy, earthworms are attracted, the farmer has become happy, and there are more than 7,000 farmers for more than 8 or 10 years, and we have no complaint of any. In fact, all our farmers become happy. There is no health issues. Able youth is attracted. So, and we don't have any marketing problems. So everybody is happy. But basically, we can take questions. You can send questions. We are there. We have written our website, so you can write to us on our email, and we will. We are ready to discuss. We are ready to answer all the questions. This since we are short of time, we cannot really go debating the issue.
Okay, thank you, Rajiv and Shekhar, for this small discussion right now and for answering the question. We have one other question. I'm not entirely sure to which speaker it was addressed. From Alan Johan Qualswick. What was how do you go about to deal with the myth of plowing and use of fertilizers? Just putting this in the room to all the presenters. Whoever wants to answer that?
Question, please. What's the question, Samuel? I didn't get.
Okay, I repeat it. The question was, how do you go about to deal with the myth of plowing and use of fertilizers?
I don't think the two are really connected. I mean, plowing is basically to, break the different things, and fertilizer, they're two completely different things. They're not really interconnected in that sense. I mean, plowing is to get the weeds out and many things, and fertilizer is basically to feed the plant. So they're two different things, I feel, or unless we've understood the question wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajiv.
Yeah, I don't know if I can ask a question regarding what was the discussion ongoing related to the cotton issue versus the herbing issue. And I wanted to ask Rajiv, because Rajiv was talking about this in his presentation. So I'm Leah, sorry I didn't introduce before. I'm working with Emma at Mesh Impact. And so I wanted to ask if you already tried to use agricultural tarpaulins to solve the herbing issue, or upcycle straw, for example, or alternatively some dry leaves to be able to cover the soil and try to solve this issue of herbs that we don't want to see growing when we see our plants growing. I don't know if it fitted to this
No,
region.
it's really important. See, the problem I'm talking specifically of cotton is the initial weed control, which is a bit of an issue. So, which is in the first, the weeds compete with the cotton crop in the first 60 days. So the first 60 days are critical, and there, some of the pre-emergent herbicides that Shekhar was talking about could be used. And after that, once the canopy is covered, the shade becomes less, so weeds are not such a big. And if you can push an intercrop in at that stage, then there will be no problem of weed. And yes, mulching is a very good option, but let me tell you, the only way you can move ahead with mulching is in situ mulching, which means you grow the stuff there and smother it. To bring biomass from outside the field is absolutely impossible. There's also work happening on polymulch, but the thing with polymulch is the micron size of the plastics are very, very thin, so you cannot remove the polymulch. It finally gets incorporated into the soil. So that's another. Of course, covering the soil is really, I mean, basically it's like it says that the sun and the soil should never see each other. I mean, that's what we are trying to do, but it's
exactly
easier said than done. One has to contextualize and really, because it's a lot of mindset change, and also we don't have too many trials happening on this front, and we cannot possibly do everything because we are implementing we are at the front end of farmers. We are doing the technology transfer. We are training them, and for us to be involved in research on these things, which are very much needed, is a great need of the hour. And unfortunately, today the GDP allocation on cotton research, especially in India, is pretty low. Research institutes they're great ones, but that's just somehow keeping afloat, and nobody's really working on these aspects, not yet at least. Thank you.
We have one more question, a raised hand actually. I'm now giving the floor to Aweke for the last question of this session. So please go ahead.
Hi, Samuel. Thank you. This is Aweke from Ethiopia. I was the one who raised actually the question on tillage for weed control and seeding. And especially for seeding, it's very difficult for farmers to adopt the machines we have now. The big machines are very expensive here. And using hand tools is very difficult to cover the whole field, And Mr. Sekhar was mentioning about a machine, I think they getting and recently, probably. And he was also mentioning that this is very, appropriate probably for India and for Africa as well. I wanted to ask how accessible this technology or the machine and how affordable for farmers is,
Well,
because we're struggling with the farmer adoption of no tillage.
yes, yeah,
Thank you.
enough. Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you so much. Should I pronounce it away? Is that how I
Yes,
say it?
yes, correct.
Okay, awake. Yeah, I certainly want to get connected with you, and you can get my email from Samuel or somebody. It's written already in our chat box, our website. So awake, it's certainly we have come a long way. No-till agriculture, especially for smallholder farmer, was impossible. When the technique was first found on our farm in 2011, 2013, we started taking it to the farmers, especially to all smallholder farmer, half acre to 10 acres. We found out that the soil was becoming healthier, earthworms were coming with every farmer, and the farmer was becoming happy. So then it started spreading from farmer to farmer. And this is how, but all those 12 years between 2012, 13 till last year, in fact, even today, we were using this one tool, hand tool. And you are right that hand tool has got limitations. But say, for example, if you are growing rice in your country, to grow rice with transplanting, for first 50 days, the labor requirement in our country is all for preparing seed bed, to do plowing, puddling, uprooting the seedlings and transplanting. It requires almost 32 laborers for first 50 days. With our hand tool, the labor requirement became 8 from 32. But now, with a small push seeder available in the market, in India it's available, it's called push seeder, that has reduced the requirement to only 3, 32, 8, and 3. But with the machine that is available now, which is going to be available, it's not complete study, field level studies are not done. But stay connected. Within 1 year, we will be able to give you both, and it has to go technology and the machine together, and we will give it to you. And that machine and the technology today is already recorded on United Nations website of FAO. If you go on FAO and say SRT, you will get that technology, but you can get connected with us, and we are developing even chatbot. So chatbot on the mobile, you can ask questions. You can the chatbot is today designed for our one local language, but very soon it will be designed for English language and for multiple crops. So we have already entered that era where you don't have to depend on anybody of us, and the technology will be available. But the machine will be available for sure in less than, I would say, 8 months. but we have to wait now.
Thank you, Mr. Sekaril. It's very helpful. Yeah, let's keep in touch. We really need such technologies.
Absolutely. It's there. It's
Yeah.
there.
So
Thank you.
thank you, Shekhar, for answering the question. So now we are at the end of the session. A big thank you to all the speakers for taking the time and their great presentations. Yeah, perhaps we'll see each other in the future again in another community of practice event. Who knows? And well, yeah, see you around and thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you very much for receiving us. Bye.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Have a good day
you.
too.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.